Stacy Mendoza, and today I'm going to be explaining the hypophyseal portal system. It starts with the hypothalamus, which is up here, and it goes to the pituitary gland, which lies in the sella turcica. The purpose of the hypothalamus is that it controls the production of hormones in the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland by secreting and regulating hormones. This is controlled by the nervous system, so it acts as an endocrine gland. The way this works is that it goes through the portal system, which starts with the superior hypophyseal artery, which is oxygenated, and it oxygenates the hypothalamus, but instead of leaving and going back to the heart, it goes down through portal veins and makes capillary beds to the anterior pituitary to give off the hormones so that it can then target the other tissues. Another name for the anterior pituitary is the adenohypophyses, and the posterior pituitary is a neurohypophyses. So what the hypothalamus does is that it produces releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones, which is controlled by negative feedback. So it either stimulates synthesis, which is releasing hormones, or it prevents synthesis, which is inhibiting hormones. So either it tells it to make it or not to make it. So an example of this would be the gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is target tissue, is the anterior pituitary, which then makes luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, which targets the testes and the ovaries. And they make both, but it goes to either or depending on gender. The ovaries then produce estrogen and progesterone. Another example would be the thyrotropin releasing hormone, which targets the anterior pituitary, which then releases thyroid stimulating hormone, which targets the thyroid, then makes T3 and T4, which is thyroid hormone. Another example would be the corticotropin releasing hormone, which again targets the anterior pituitary, which makes adrenocorticotropic hormone, which then targets the adrenal gland. And the adrenal gland is made up of the medulla, which is the inner, and the cortex, which is the outer. The cortex is made up of different layers, like the zona glomerulosa, which produces aldosterone, and then the zona fasciculata, which produces cortisol, then the zona reticularis, which produces androgen, and then the deepest layer is the medulla, which is right here. So now we're going to move on to negative feedback and how it works of the inhibiting and stimulating. So the purpose of negative feedback is it's the primary mechanism for homeostasis. So for example, temperature, if you're sweating, you're trying to make your body go back to the normal temperature. So an example with the endocrine system would be the hypothalamus and the thyroid gland. So the hypothalamus releases thyrotropin releasing hormone, which targets the anterior pituitary, which releases thyroid stimulating hormone, which targets the thyroid gland, which then produces T3 and T4. However, if T3 and T4 is low, it sends a message to the hypothalamus to produce it sends a message to send so it can make less. But if it's too high, if it needs more, it sends it to make more. And then if it's too high, it sends the message to the anterior pituitary so it can make less. And that is the hypophyseal portal system.